Good morning, everyone. We are going to discuss Unit 1. So, Unit 1, the topics is what is logic. So, now what is logic? Before going to start what is logic, first of all, what is the etymological meaning of the word logic? Then first, the word logic comes from the Greek word logic, and this logic, there is the adjective of the noun word logos, which means thought, So the word logic comes from the Greek word which means logic, or logos means thought or word. So first, the word logic comes from the Greek word logi. This is the adjective of the word noun, that is logos, which means thought or word. So in this sense, etymologically, we can say that logic is the science of thought as expressed in language. Again, logic is the science of thought as expressed in language. So it is the etymological meaning, that is etymological definition of the word or the term logic. So this logic then is expressed the science of thought. Now this thought, what kind of thought? Then thought is highly ambiguous. It may mean that perception, memory, imagination, then general idea or any concept regarding anything, which this thought means this. Then the word reasoning may be substituted for thought in logic for clarity. So etymologically, we can say that the logic is the science of thought as expressed in language. Now again, one question arises here, that what is science? Logic is the science, that is science. Now what is science? So I think all of you have knowledge regarding science. So what is science? Do you know? Science is a systematic study of knowledge relating to a particular department of nature. For example, botany, zoology. So botany deals with plants, zoology deals with animals, that is a particular department of nature. That is, nature is particular department. Which department? That is plants. Zoology deals with animals, that means the department is animals. So this is the definition of science. So here the definition of science is clear. Again I say that a science is a systematic study of knowledge relating to a particular department of nature. For example, botany, zoology. Botany deals with plants, zoology deals with animals. So this is the this is an example of science. Now logic is the science of thought. Now what kind of thought? Logic, one thing keep in mind that logic formulates here, logic formulates certain principle of correct thinking. Logic formulates certain principles of correct thinking. So here this thinking or this thought may be, or thought is highly ambiguous. It may mean perception, memory, imagination, or any general idea or any concept regarding anything. So this is the definition of science. Now logic is the science of thought as expressed in language. This is the etymological definition. So next, science clear. So next, the whole nature is divided into different departments for its study. A science confines its investigation to a particular department, that is like botany, zoology, psychology, anything. So scientific knowledge is a general knowledge of the facts belonging to that department. Such knowledge must be consistent, so it must be verifiable in nature. So now question, the science of reasoning, that is, now question, what is reasoning? So reasoning is a mental process where we proceed from something known to unknown. So for example, Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal, therefore all men are mortal. So here in this example, these are the known experiences and this is new experience. So on the basis of these propositions or these sentences, we can establish a simple statement, that is, all men are mortal. Here these are called premises, and the conclusion which is drawn from the premises is conclusion. So these are the experience from, these are known experiences and this is unknown. So here the reasoning is a mental process where we pass from to something known to something unknown. Something known, that is, Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal. On the basis of this mortality or on the basis of this experience, we can write or we can establish a simple statement which is called conclusion in logic. All men are mortal, it is new experience. So here something known to something unknown, when reasoning when expressed in language, reasoning when expressed in language, it is called argument. Please concentrate. Reasoning when expressed in language is called argument. So here reasoning is a mental process where we pass from something known to something unknown, or we proceed from something known to something unknown. So here these are the sentences. These sentences are called premises, and the last one is called conclusion. So on the basis of these experiences, we can establish a simple statement, which is the conclusion of an argument is unknown, that is new experience. Then here reasoning, the something known constitutes the data, that is the materials of reasoning to the premises, and the argument and the new knowledge is all men are mortal is knowledge, that is the conclusion. So here reasoning again divided into two. Reasoning divided into two. So one is deductive, another is inductive. So now reasoning may be divided into two. One is deductive, another is inductive. So now what is deductive inference? So deductive inference, in a deductive inference, the conclusion is drawn from one or more given premises. The conclusion cannot be more general than the premises. For example, all men are mortal. Ram is a man. Therefore, Ram is mortal. So here in this example, the conclusion is not more general than the premises. That means here in the premises, all men, that is the whole man community is included, but the conclusion is one. So here the conclusion is drawn from one or more given premises, that means two premises, but the conclusion cannot be more general than the premises, which is mainly an inference from general to particular. For example, all men are mortal, Ram is a man, therefore Ram is mortal. This is an example of deductive inference. Deductive inference, simply it means that the premises, that is all, and conclusion is Ram is one, so that is all to sum. Simply deductive inference means sum to all to sum, all to sum. Sum in logic, sum means at least one. So all to sum. Here all and sum, that is the deductive process. This process, this argument, this mental process is called deductive reasoning. Now inductive reasoning. In an inductive reasoning, a general proposition is established as a conclusion on the basis of more general, on the basis of some observation of facts, and the conclusion is more general than the premises. Deductive inference, the conclusion is not more general than the premises, but in inductive inference, that is, this is the example. The inductive inference, the conclusion is more general than the premises. Here Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal. These are the sum, and sum to all. So this process, this argument, this mental process is called inductive inference. because here the conclusion is more general than the premises. It means that this process is sum to all, but not all to sum. Sum to all. This process is called inductive inference. So here one thing keep in mind, that reasoning or inference is the subject matter of logic. So reasoning is a mental process where we proceed from something known to something unknown. So for example, this all men are mortal, Ram is a man, therefore Ram is mortal. Again, in inductive inference, Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal, therefore all men are mortal. This inference, that means reasoning is the main subject matter or of logic. Logic gives us a systematic knowledge of certain principles which regulate our reasoning for the realization of truth and avoidance of error. So here, as in logic, in a scientific discussion regarding reasoning, that means inference. So this reasoning or inference is the main subject matter of logic. So here, and logic is also called the science of reasoning. Science of reasoning. Why it is called science of reasoning? Because reasoning is the main subject matter of logic. So in this regard, we can say that logic is the science of reasoning. Already we have studied that the etymological meaning of the word logic, and etymological definition and etymological meaning. Here, etymologically, we can say that logic is the science of thought as expressed in language. So here, reasoning is an important factor for the study of logic. In this case, for this reason, reasoning is the main subject matter of logic. Now, the second topics, the first topic is that is what is logic. So here, logic formulates certain principles of correct thinking. Formulate certain principles. That means some principles that is the process where we pass from something known to unknown. How we establish a reasoning, how we establish an argument, how we establish reasoning process, then how we establish a deductive inference, how we establish a inductive reasoning or inference inference. For this reason, correct thinking, that is human knowledge, always thinks or thinking, but not all humans or all thinkings may not be correct. Here, some errors also. So for this reason, man wants to know always what is truth. So for this realization of truth, logic helps us. Thus, logic formulates certain principles, certain rules, certain regulations of correct thinking, not incorrect thinking. Correct thinking, avoiding some errors. So correct thinking is always the main subject matter on the basis of some principles, some regulations, some rules for avoiding errors. So logic deals with the science of reasoning or correct thinking. So here today this is the first class of HS first year, and this is the first topics, which is very small topics, that is what is logic. So overall then we can conclude that logic is the study of is the science of thought as expressed in language. So this is the first class, and in my next class we will discuss the nature of topics, nature of logic. So thank you everyone.